Our 2014 forecast. Now this is thoughtful. Hello, I'm Trevor Lai in Shanghai. To start out 2014, we're bringing you our third annual forecast show this week on Thoughtful China. In the first year of China's new leadership, the country's growth rate has fallen to 7.5%, its lowest point in 2 decades. But the economy is also showing signs of an upswing. If so, it could give President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Keqiang more confidence in tackling reforms, such as shifting China's economy away from its dependence on exports and investments in heavy industry toward more domestic demand. What does that mean for marketers in 2014? The guests on this week's show will share insights about spending levels for the coming year, based on budget meetings held in late 2013. And Tom Doctoroff will have a thought or two about the perils facing new players hoping to enter China in 2014. But first, with us are Stephen Chang, CEO of Greater China at Zenith Optomedia, Aaron Lau, President and CEO of Greater China at Chale Worldwide, and Polly Chow, Chairman and CEO of Greater China at Draft FCB. Stephen, Aaron, thanks for being back on Thoughtful China. Polly, welcome to our show. I know you've just finished a lot of budget meetings with your clients. Tell us some of the highlights from the discussions you've had with your clients.
We have quite some FMCG clients, and so far what we've heard is pretty good news. I think FMCG would be booming next year, that we have confidence that they will be spending more, and in fact spending more towards the beginning of the year to drive seasons like Chinese New Year, gift giving, and things like that.
Numbers are obviously very important in China. When you say booming, put that in context. Are we talking 10% booming, 50% booming? What does that mean?
Well, people are still conservative. I think 10%, around 10% in general.
Okay, and Aaron, are you hearing the same things?
Yeah, we're hearing pretty much the same thing as police. Generally, I think clients are pretty bullish about the Chinese economy. If you look at the statistics, you'll find that generally export, as we all know, it's down by about 1/3, and domestic consumption will go up by about 1/3. So as such, clients are actually increasing their spend, because if you look at return on investment, investing in China is still the best bet amongst the world's economy. So we're looking at about 25% growth next year.
And Stephen, when you're looking at your clients, are you seeing the same comments?
It really depends on which category. We have basically all sorts of different categories of client. And as a matter of fact, for instance, like the luxury category is really slowing down, single digit, I'm not kidding. While on the other hand, like the car industry for the last 2 years may be tough for them. And next year, or put it that way, they're more opportunistic thoughts about it. It's double digit, which is not bad. But in terms of, because next year there's a World Cup, so there are lots of clients who's having the male targeted products. Well, they really want to intend to really invest, particularly during that. And then that actually jets up their, in terms of the budget, for almost like some of the clients 15 to 20%. Because of that particular event. But in general, it's going up, is bigger than the GDP prediction, and this is how we see it. And in general, I think it's sort of better than 2013.
So let's touch on luxury for a minute, because we do talk about that a lot on our show. Polly, when you work with clients, do they also echo the same sentiments about luxury as a sector falling off quite sharply in China?
I think that's a general observation. And also we pay a lot of attention as myself traveling in the Greater China region a lot. I think the economy, especially in Hong Kong, was backed up by the influx of Chinese tourists into Hong Kong. And observing the last October holiday, you can see that things have, on the retail side, have been very, very quiet. And also in the expensive restaurants as well. And when I shopped around in the Shanghai district, this is my observation, that I feel that the luxury is quieting down. I also heard that some two most famous brands, popular brands, luxury brands in China, they have announced that they're not going to open any further retail shops in China. So they're going to consolidate the business and stay as it is. So that's how I feel that it's going to slow down on the super luxury items.
Now, Aaron, were there any surprises in the meetings that you've had with clients about the coming year?
Surprisingly robust, surprisingly bullish. We were expecting a little bit of conservatism, including luxury clients. In fact, if you look at luxury, as Puli was saying, if you look at luxury as gift purchases, that's clearly down. When you look at luxury as personal purchases, it hasn't really gone down yet. So the meetings that we had with clients have been very positive, very robust. If anything else, they're looking at how to invest more as they expand into second tier, third tier, fourth tier cities.
Have you heard, though, that there is a shift from when you're talking about personal buying of luxury items, that there is a shift towards the types of gifts that they buy for themselves or the types of items they buy? So perhaps not so much flashy watches, but is it shifting to a different segment of luxury?
Yeah, it seems like, I think it probably, if I'm not mistaken, it's probably a McKinsey study that talked about how Chinese consumers are also evolving very fast. They're now looking for authenticity in their luxury purchases. So certain brands who's got a luxury heritage have continued to do well. Others who pretend they're luxury but they're not quite, is not doing as well.
Right, so pedigree is very important in
Yes,
that heritage,
yes.
part of that story.
Yes, yes.
Now, Stephen, in the upcoming year, when you're talking about rates on the side of, let's say, CCTV, for example, how much do you expect that they will be increasing?
Nowadays, okay, any TV or any media, okay, they just make our life very difficult. Okay, it's very difficult to compare apple to apple, okay, to 2013. For instance, like CCTV, every year they change their structure in terms of offering more inventory, and it's different type of inventory. However, you know, it's really from the CCTV advertising director, is that like talking about 2014, his comment is really talking about they will follow, okay, basically the GDP growth of the China, all right? While comparing in the past, the CCTV is almost always double digit. So, well, it's certainly slowed down a little bit.
Now, do you attribute that slowdown to not just their own inventory, but also the increasing challenge from the digital landscape?
First of all, okay, talking about the traditional TV, there's an increasing pressure from other provincial satellite TV, which have been doing pretty well for the majors one, and the city TV, as a matter of fact, is not doing that well. And on the other hand, of course, the digital TV, or what we call online TV, of course, you know, the increase of the advertising revenue and the challenge on the programming and the audience are really giving all the traditional TV a threat. Okay. However, you can easily say like in terms of, let's say, let me call an example, the Voice of China. Basically, they have an ever high TV rating, which is talking about traditional. So as long as you have a great content, to me, almost like doesn't matter really on which platform.
But really, that's a rare blockbuster. And when you're talking about those types of blockbusters, I think you can probably count them, you know, quite easily. At the same time, when we look at the rest of the type of content, they're usually readily available on mobile, you know, through other networks and things like that. Are you seeing specific spending increases, let's say on Youku, for example, or on mobile platforms?
It's basically, you know, on all online TV, everyone has increased in terms of their revenue, put it that way. Okay, it doesn't mean that we satisfy them, but basically because of the client, they're shifting the budget from the overall. Interesting enough, let me tell you one thing, that not necessarily from TV to digital TV. Okay, my observation is most of the cases, if the client, they have their print budget, they cut the print budget and move to the digital TV, and a little bit from TV to digital TV.
Oh, interesting. So
yeah,
print is suffering more.
Print, absolutely suffering.
And Puli, let's talk from a client's perspective. Now when you're in these meetings, are they coming proactively to you and saying, we've realized in the past we've always done things this way, a certain amount to print, certain amount to traditional television. How can we follow this shift or lead this, you know, movement into a new digital landscape?
Certainly, I have seen two extreme. So clients, one FMCG client who's been putting a lot of money into digital media for the last 2 years, and now coming back to want to spend a little bit more on traditional advertising, television, and also outdoor and point of sale.
Why?
Well, they want to push for integration, more successful, better ROI, return on investment. So for the same sort of money, they really now scrutinize on their investment to want to maximize the return. But I've also seen another very conservative client who spent 100% on traditional television and now want to spend at least 25 to 30% onto digital media. So there's always, a perspective that the grass is greener on the other side, and also want to be as comprehensive as possible. As an agency partner, it's a very big challenge, but a very welcoming challenge for us to try to be the IMC leadership agency working with the media partnership agency and also PR agency and everybody else.
So when we're talking about extreme shifts, Aaron, can you think of an example, a recent example of a client who has successfully shifted perhaps a significant amount of their spending from one form of media to another and performed well?
If you take one of our largest clients in Samsung, they've shifted a sizable portion of the business of their media budgets to digital, partly because they have a e-commerce play, and their e-commerce business has grown leaps and bounds. So I think if you have good solid reasons, and it's tied to your overall strategic business goals, then I think there is this movement within budgets that makes sense for all sort of different clients. I cannot think of any clients who these days who solely rely on mass TV or just digital, because if you think about it, there have not been that many brands that have been built purely off a digital media plan. I don't know of that many. And at the same time, the cost inefficiency in mass TV, mass media has now given clients, second thoughts about, how do they employ their budgets in the most cost-effective manner. So we've been able to see a lot of these discussions taking place with clients.
Are you hearing more conversations about beyond online television advertising, but actually going into more content creation?
Yes, we have. I think with the fragmentation of digital media, mobile media, we're beginning to see more and more clients talking about content creation, and in some cases, they actually create platforms to deliver messaging to their clients. One of our clients in Samsung, they have 100 million Galaxy users here in China, 3 million smart TV households, and you can imagine they have quite a large footprint in China. And based upon some of the research that we've done, we know that a lot of the Galaxy users are actually sleeping with their phones next to their pillow. So it's a great platform for us to deliver messaging. So in addition to discussing about content creation, people are now talking about how do they use their own platforms to create media for themselves.
Our clients leverage on that social platform, content creation, mostly to create the emotional bonding and loyalty. Because of the length of the duration and the role of the brand can become more important in that content creation. So actually, what happens when I judge Airfare this year, I realized that no matter it's automobile industry, chewing gums or cookies, everybody has some sort of content creation. The more successful ones are the ones that can really naturally insert their brand into the content to create a very unique brand-owned platform and content, so that the consumers will enjoy watching and actually becoming to like the brand much more.
Are you seeing that more as a one-off project or an ongoing
no,
campaign?
In fact, we've seen that creation for now 2 to 3 years for certain brands in the FMCG category, and I see that next year will be more and more FMCG brands will be moving towards that kind of direction, which will automatically uplifting the standard of production in the content creation.
I also observed that because one of the biggest marketing challenge in China, brand building, is really to build the trust, okay, which is almost like one of the biggest issue. And then because of that, while we are talking about the content creation, I see a lot of clients, they're actually creating official content, okay, and that's from one of our research study projects that anything official websites, official Weibo, WeChat, unbelievably comparing to the rest of the world is a really high influential point in China, not in the other parts of the world, okay? Possibly because, if you go in anything official, it's supposed to be all the information, the content that you're looking for is trustworthy.
Right.
So it's pretty unique in China, and a lot of clients in terms of the website development, WeChat development, official one in China is really not really that sophisticated yet. So this part becomes like a lot of clients, they are relooking at the fundamental modification from layout, from the content. So I think this is pretty unique.
On that note, let's take a break to hear a thought or two from JWT's Tom Doctoroff about the perils facing new players hoping to enter China in 2014.
2014 will be the year corporate leaders realize that it may be too late to enter China. If you haven't established significant scale already, perhaps you never will. If you're not here yet, the PRC will not be an option for turbocharging future growth plans. 2014 won't be easy. Consumer confidence is on tenterhooks. The nation is holding its collective breath, waiting for signals issued from the upcoming third plenum, the gathering at which a new leadership team will announce its reform agenda. Consumers will not be reassured if President Xi Jinping doesn't announce a robust, albeit incremental program to modernize the economy and limit the role of the Communist Party in key industrial and service sectors. But the smart money suggests that competition between entrenched political interests will dilute aggressive efforts to liberalize policy. Even if the smart money is wrong, most economists believe that long-term acceleration can't be accomplished without the short-term pain that comes with rebalancing towards a consumer-led economy. So consumer spending will be pinched at best. A more acute problem for multinational corporations is changes on China's media scene. Due to new and ever stricter government regulations, the range of permissible broadcast television programs is becoming more and more narrow and less interesting to viewers. Ratings are declining, but media prices aren't. So the cost of establishing brand awareness is prohibitive, a trend that will only accelerate in 2014. True, as television becomes less affordable, alternative digital media grow. But unfortunately, digital is better for deepening engagement with existing brands than forging awareness of new ones. So the pockets of new players must be deep, lest they consign themselves to competing in lower tier markets at lower prices against very aggressive, operationally savvy local competition. The result? Low margins, which might cause marketers to think twice before fighting for scraps in China's hinterland. Is China going to collapse? No. Are current MNC leaders such as Starbucks, Unilever, and Nike going to hit the wall? No. Is China going to continue growing at impressive rates? Yes. But the era of China as Great White Hope is probably over.
Welcome back. Let's switch gears and look at growth in third and fourth tier cities in China and how advertisers are now moving into some of those cities. I think you mentioned earlier that clients are changing their focus sometimes, depending on the category, of course. So what are some different advertising strategies they're using to target consumers in third and fourth tier cities?
In fact, there's been a lot of research done about the differences between Tier 1, Tier 2, and 3, 4 tier cities. And there's been also some discussion with our clients about whether we need to use the same copy or different copies for different cities and so on and so forth. There's been no conclusion at this point in time. Obviously, it depends quite a bit on the category, the competition, and so on. But certainly there's been a lot of attention paid to attracting the third and the fourth tier city. And if you look at the Tier 1, Tier 2 cities, those cities are now at the saturation point that they simply cannot take on more people. If you look at the traffic jams in Beijing, where I live, which is terrible. And so more and more people are gravitating towards Tier 3, Tier 4 cities, and advertisers are actually following that trend. So I think you're going to see a lot more innovative strategies being applied to Tier 3, Tier 4 cities in the future.
But for example, I mean, we talked a lot about, Puli, you mentioned WeChat being a huge part of conversations, but are digital media and social networks as popular in third and fourth tier cities?
Well, I think really depending on what kind of age you're talking about, and the aging population is getting more serious in China too. So we have a pretty young population that is a big universe, and also pretty getting older population also on the rise. So it really depends on the category, who, what, how. So I think that WeChat would be or Weibo would be quite effective among the, anybody from 15 to 25. But if we are still talking to somebody who's 35, parents, or even older, 45, then maybe the traditional media will still play a role. And that's why I explained earlier that why some of our FMCG clients, when they are international expansion, they have a different media strategy in the tier 1, tier 2 cities and tier 4, tier 5 cities.
And what about media spending?
As a matter of fact, to start with, if you look at the growth for the last few years, talking about the internet penetration in China, there are a few observations. Number one is actually the older population is getting more, all right, because it's basically saturated for the younger ones, okay. Number two is tier 2, 3, 4, 5 cities is getting more people who's what we call netizens, because again, tier 1, 2 cities, they are saturated. So these two are particular growth in the last 2 years. So in terms of the digital usage, as a matter of fact, it's getting more comparatively. On the other hand, because from the media perspective, tier 1, 2 cities, they're really costly in terms of traditional media. So a lot of clients, they change their marketing or media strategy in terms of if they are launching a new product, they may not consider tier 1 or 2 to start with. They instead, just like back to 10 years ago, a lot of local brands, they start with the tier 3, tier 4 city, and then coming back when they are getting, the revenue. So this becomes another sort of shift in terms of the strategy.
Now, all three of you have stated you're very relatively bullish on China still for the next 3 years at least. If you could summarize in one word the sentiments from your clients in your budget meetings about their views on China and the market, how would you summarize it? One word.
One word. I guess great.
Pragmatic.
I prepare for it. I need 2 words. And you need to give me 2 words, okay? Because this is my general observation, okay? It's conservative comparing to the past, but positive.
Conservatively positive.
Say more than 2 words.
Okay. Stephen, Pulley, Aaron, thanks for being on Thoughtful China.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That wraps it up for today. Be sure to subscribe to us on Youku, Tudo, and YouTube. You can also follow us on Weibo and Twitter and join our LinkedIn group. We'll see you again.